Welcome to Chasing Impact, Not Sales, where heart meets hustle, strategy meets service, and selling feels good again. I'm your host, Mandy Minatello. Let's go. Hey, welcome back to Chasing Impact, Not Sales. I have such a pleasure today. I am bringing on an old friend, Kelsey. Kelsey and I worked together, we were just saying 6 years ago, which seems like a minute and a mile at the same time. And Kelsey has really grown quite a sales empire since then. And so
Mhm.
I reached out and was like, hey, girl, like, we have our paths have interwoven throughout the years. And I just really wanted to bring her on to share what she's doing in the sales space. And for you guys to just get to know her heart and soul is just an amazing opportunity. So, Kelsey, I'm so glad that you're able to join me today.
Yes, thank you so much. I'm so pumped. It's been fun to catch up and to see your growth over the last 6 years. Like, wow, we've both learned so much in everything high ticket sales,
So
team
much.
building, scaling, all the things.
All the things, all the things. Yes, we were babies in the business then. Um,
hmm
I love it. So, speaking of that, and we were catching up a little bit before I actually hit record and all, just talking over it all and everything that has happened from when you started, you said in ministry all the way up until now.
Yeah,
What is the hardest lesson that you have learned in all of your years?
in business. Gosh.
Yeah.
So, yeah, with the recruiting agency,
Well, let's not wait.
yes.
Recruiting agency. Why don't I didn't even give you a chance to like kind of say what you do before you give the
Yeah,
lesson. It would
let's
kind of be
start
great.
there.
Start there. Start at the
Let's
very
start
beginning.
there.
Yeah.
So yeah, in 2020, right after we parted ways at the job we were both at, I went into the high ticket sales space doing sales for other coaches and consultants, and I had a great time with that. But I quickly realized that it was a lot of men, and I didn't know who else was doing it as a woman. And so I started a Facebook group back in the heyday of Facebook groups and
Yeah.
started a group of women to connect around sales. And that just led to business owners reaching out to me for salespeople. So, next thing I know, I had a recruiting agency. We've placed over like 485 sales reps now. We do a lot of closers, setters, and then also high level VP, chief revenue officer, sales director type roles. So our niche is sales, and then some client success too, right? Because that still has a sales component as well. Yeah, so I love connecting people. That is really like my superpower is just intuitively knowing like who should connect and has like a synchronicity, right? And opportunity together. So that's how it was born. And as far
I
as like
love
my
that.
biggest challenge, I think the biggest challenge in business is really figuring out, what to say yes to and what to say no to. And that is still such a big
Yeah.
challenge, right? I had an opportunity today that it's like, wow, financially, this could be life changing. And then I look at the brass tacks of it all, and it's like, okay, well, is this actually the work that I want to be doing? Um, is this the type of client that I want to be working with? Um, I think for me, I really just had to fine tune that ideal client. So we will
Mhm.
work with business owners who are making their first sales hire if they have um, really solid marketing, really consistent lead flow, sales and systems and processes in place for the candidate to come in and have success. But we've really found that our sweet spot is a client doing at least 1 million. And honestly, even more recently, usually the clients that we're bringing on are at the 3 to 5 million mark because they've got an established sales team, they've got a sales manager in place, and they're just wanting us to come in and support in finding the best people. And they don't want their sales manager distracted doing that. They don't want to just be relying on, referrals from their sales team. They want us to go headhunt and find the best that are not only the
Love it.
best with skill set, but the best culture fits, right? Who are going to really make their team the best place to work and increase retention and all of that. So, it took, gosh, I'm 5 years into this, and it wasn't really even until the last year until I figured out like, I really have to double down on the clients that are our sweet spot instead of trying to serve everybody, because it just doesn't work that way. It pulls you in different directions. And there are a lot of great sales agencies out there that will support you in A to Z, like building your whole system out and then hiring. But we're really for the business that has those things built already and is
Mhm.
focusing now on like true culture building. So I like to joke
I
that
love
working
that.
with us is kind of like working with a matchmaker versus swiping on Tinder, right? Or Hinge or whatever. Not that I
I love
have
that.
experience with that, but it's
Yeah, we all
like,
know the illustration though. I love
yes,
that.
it's like, hey, go find me exactly this person. This is who I want versus like, oh, I'm just gonna hope that I run into them out here in the wild.
Which is, yeah, like there's so much of that. And what you're saying really is the heart of my philosophy in this whole podcast is like chasing impact over sales. You could, work with everybody, or you could focus on your sweet spot and really bring value. And that's what's missing with a lot of people, I would think, in the recruiting space is,
Hmm.
really focusing on
Totally.
who you can help and where you can make the boat, because you want to place the right person in the right company so that both sides are happy and it's a win-win.
Exactly. It's only, yeah, win-win-win, right? If the candidate is making great money, then that means that the business owner is making great money, and that means that I made good money, and that I'll get referrals, and everyone's, feeling like aligned and happy. So
I
that's
love that.
definitely the end goal. And yeah, when we try to, I think, like what you said, impact over income, and then really like aligning with our gifts, right? So we do have our systems and processes for screening. But what makes us really unique is, I say us, it's me and my head recruiter, Christina. And we're both super connectors. Like we just intuitively know, as I say intuitively, there is an element of like probably spiritual intuition, but also we've been in the space for over 8 years. And so there's just pattern recognition, right? When you've been on a ton of teams yourself, you've been in the trenches, when you've been on thousands of sales calls with all kinds of different coaches and consultants, and you've seen thousands of offers, like you just have pattern recognition. And so you're able to have those conversations with sales reps and know if they're bullshitting you or not, right?
Right,
And
right.
know the questions to ask, and you know what to listen for. And then, very practically as well, we have relationships with all these people that we've built over time. And so it's a small world. And we know if they got fired from their last job for being a jerk, or, weren't hitting KPIs or what. So we use all of that and really bring that to the table for our clients. So
That is
helping
so
them make the
great.
best decisions.
That is so great. Now, pivoting a little bit, because you talked about having, you know, spiritual intuition, and I know that you come from ministry and that real
Mm-hmm.
service heart, and I find so often that people who come from service places, so it could be ministry, could be like the medical field, teaching, education, all of that, really have a hard time embracing their, badassery in sales. And I know we've talked about that. I've talked about it with my
Yeah.
audience that for me, with my like what I call teacher heart, it
Uh-huh.
took me a minute to be like, wait, I'm really good at this. And it's not something that I need to be like,
Mm-hmm.
ashamed of or anything. Um, how do you like, reconcile, or how did you,
Yeah. Yeah. I love this
reconcile
question.
that and become the, you're the queen of the sales queens? How did that happen?
Yeah, I love this question. I don't know if anyone's ever asked me this, but it's something that I definitely see. So I think there's two pieces with that. People coming from the healing area or ministry or teaching, something where they weren't making a ton of money, something
Mhm.
where sales is kind of considered a dirty word. Um, for me, I had the unique privilege of that just really not being much of an obstacle from day one. So my dad is president of a company. My aunt owns her own business, and so I had that working for me. And then when I was in ministry, what I actually specialized in was fundraising. So I was one of the top, like we had to raise all the money for our ministry organization. And I was one of the top people there. And the reason for that is because I was like, oh my gosh, this is so fun to sit across from people and to tell them about what God's doing and then to invite them into being a part of that. Like it didn't occur to me that that was sales, right?
That is such a beautiful like
Like at
connection
all.
that people don't get it at first. Usually people have to make it. It was made for you. I love that.
Yeah, yeah. So now was I scared when I first started doing that? Was I uncomfortable? 100% yes. Yeah. But I was just really convicted that that's what God had called me to do. And once I bought into the vision of, oh, this really is like inviting people into what God's doing, I was like, okay, this is cool. This is exciting. So I had that mindset. And then I started teaching fundraising. So for 3 to 4 years, I taught missionaries, church planners, and couples like adopting how to raise money. Not by, when I say fundraising, I don't mean like bake sales. I mean by calling the people that they know and asking the people that they know and people that they don't know to pledge money to their cause. So very much, direct sales, right? Like calling people and directly asking for the investment into whatever God was calling them to do. So, um, yeah, but the mindset piece of things, I think it's really just understanding. So, with that, for me, what changed my mindset was a book called The God Ask. And the God Ask has a triangle visualization where God is at the top of the triangle, and then you are at the bottom of the triangle on one side, and the other person is at the bottom of the triangle on the other side. And so, there's me, I'm praying, asking for provision for whether it's for a sale, right? Whether it's for the money you're raising for your funds, or even if it's provision through your job, right? Like asking God for provision. And then I'm going to now go ask the person that God has put in front of me. And whether or not they say yes is between them and God, right? Like they then get to go make that decision. There's no attachment. I have zero attachment to whether or not they say yes or no, but it is my, I guess I'll use the word duty, but privilege to extend the invitation, right? So I get to extend them the invitation. They get to talk to God about it. I get to talk to God about it. And that's how the triangle all really comes together. So once I like had that mindset shift, it became really fun for me to fundraise. And then I was actually talking to my friend that she was an Aflac sales rep. And she was telling me what she does every day. And she was telling me about the calls she makes and the sales she makes. And I was like, I'm doing the same thing. I'm just doing fundraising. I was like, oh, I
Yeah.
guess I'm doing sales. And so
Oh
when I
my gosh.
transitioned to sales, I already had that foundation and it just wasn't really a problem for me. But yeah, I think that a lot of people have, a hard time like receiving the money
Hmm.
and have some scarcity mindset around that. Um, but the reality is that like God provides for his people through other people
Right.
and that money is just a tool, money is neutral. And I think that whole principle of like really neutralizing it all, right? Like money is neutral, it's a tool. Me extending an invitation or asking for a sale is neutral. I'm not attached to the yes or the no because for
Hmm.
me, it keeps going back to like, I'm trusting that God's going to provide for me. So there's like not this pressure or fear of rejection or feeling like I'm manipulating somebody or anything like that around it. So
That is
yeah.
so beautiful. Like I'm so glad I asked that question and I wrote down
Yes.
that book because I got to check that out. But I
Yeah,
think
it's
like
good.
even if, I mean, you and I are both believers, we very much align in that. But I think if there are, listeners out there that don't necessarily even, you don't have to see that top as God, but just that
Yeah.
detachment from it's your privilege to offer the value
Hmm.
and it's up to them to accept or not. And
Hmm.
that's between them and their conscious or whatever. But
Right.
for to see it as, for both of us believe God put us there to make a difference.
Hmm.
And if that difference is going to be made, it doesn't necessarily have to be through us. It'll be through someone else. But what a privilege to be the one
Hmm.
that extends that
Yeah. If
and
you're
be
in the
part of the
heart of
blessing.
service, right?
Exactly.
Like it doesn't matter if you have, a relationship with God or not, from that lens. If you believe in the universe or whatever energy, like hopefully you're showing up in a heart of service
Right.
regardless.
That's what it's all
And
about.
that's what it should be about. And so if your heart is literally to serve the person, then you're not attached to the yes or the no. Um, you just should be attached to like what is in this person's highest best interest and how can I show up as my highest, self to serve them. So yeah, and then the money piece of things, I think even like, healers and coaches, teachers, like again, it's getting comfortable with like receiving and knowing that like money is that energetic exchange of um reciprocity of like, hey, something of value is given here, and so I'm going to give you something of value back.
Hmm. Absolutely. And you work with women. I mean, you're the sales queen, the sales queens. And the numbers show, like you said at the beginning, like it's a man's world, right? And I actually was like looking at the numbers and I see that it's actually almost 50-50 when you talk about at the reps level, like men to women. But when you get up and you said you work with VPs, directors, managers, it's very much heavy on men.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if that's because of the relationship that women have internally with themselves on what they should or should not be going after. What is your thoughts on that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I think that this could be a whole nother conversation.
Yeah, I may have opened a can of worms. We could.
Oh, a little bit of a can of worms. I think that men biologically have the advantage of 24/7 testosterone and hormones that are literally the same every single day, and that women do not have that advantage. And so, for that reason, I think they're able to show up more consistently and that they make really great managers and leaders, like from a biological level, of course. Um,
Totally
I
forgot that you
think
have
that,
that whole background as well to share
yeah,
the feminine, the masculine, the energy, the
yeah.
biological
And
side of it.
so I think that that's kind of their natural advantage in that
Yeah.
regard. But I think women have the natural advantage of being relational, right? And intuitive. And so, you and I were talking about how when you go into a sales team, you're not really looking at the numbers first. You're looking at the energetic alignment, essentially, of are these people's hearts and minds in alignment with what they're selling and what
Yeah.
are the blocks that are preventing them from selling, whether it's a relationship issue at home that's holding them back, a personal issue holding them back, or an issue with the team that's holding them back. But like you're coming in and getting all of that sorted. And so I think you really need both. But to really answer your direct question of like, what do I think is, holding women back from being in more of those areas? Yeah, I think there's definitely the conditioning overall that, that sales is for men. But the reality is that women are oftentimes much better at sales because they are going to be more in tune with their emotions typically and in tune with well, not really even their emotions, right? But in tune with the experience, the relational connection that's happening in a sales conversation. I think that, men operate very much out of like the logical compartmentalized brain of, let me follow this sales script and this framework.
Uh-huh.
Um, and the women are much more likely to take that sales framework and then flow with it and follow their intuition and like know where the conversation needs to go. The best sales people in the world, whether they are men or women, do both, right? You've got to integrate
Yep.
the two. One without the other, you're never going to have true like mastery. It's like sales is a science and sales is an art. Like you've really got to bring together both of those pieces. So yeah, I think that there's a lot of room for both.
I just couldn't agree more. Like I love that. Sales is a science and an art. Like it's people think it's crazy because I love numbers, but I don't love numbers. I love the safety that's in the numbers, which is, understanding how you can get from A to Z, and then you mix in the psychology and the mindset and all of the things because you have your destination. So
Yeah,
totally
exactly.
get
There's
that.
like the framework. Yeah, for
You need
sure.
you need those numbers, and then you work in the intuition, and it's a beautiful flow that really, exponential growth is
Hmm.
is in,
Yeah.
invaluable. Awesome. All right. Well, we could absolutely, we said this. We could make multiple episodes out of this and do
Yeah.
our own show. But What are you've kind of said, you have the agency and all of that. What are you currently working on? How can we support you, find you? What are you working on?
Yes. So what we are working on, we've been doing a lot of high level directors, chief revenue officer, sales vice president, all that fun stuff. So that is really my focus for 2026 is to be more in the room with businesses that are scaling and are looking for really strong sales leadership and looking for consistent growth with their teams. But yeah, I think that um, at the end of the day, like we're here helping business owners find the right people. And so whether you're a business owner that is looking to hire a client success person, account management, an appointment setter, closer, or someone in leadership, we would be happy to have a conversation with you to see if we are the right people to help. And if you're needing more support, working with somebody like Mandy, obviously, will point you in the right direction. So if you have any questions about hiring or whether or not you should hire, reach
Okay.
out and I'm happy to support you myself or make a good recommendation. So you can find us at remotesalescareer.com.
I love that. Thank you. And two pieces of advice to close with. One, what would you tell the business owner? Best piece of advice who's wondering if it's time to hire. And on the other side, what would you tell a rock star salesperson to either keep doing or not do?
Oh gosh. Okay. If it's time to hire when you're solving a constraint. So when you have more leads than you know what to do with, right? It's time to hire.
Hmm.
Um, Making sure that there's consistency with that. So I do see sales or business owners when they're making their first hire, sometimes they want to, take that off themselves too quickly. And it's really important that they are having that consistent lead flow stabilized first and doing the sales themselves. And it's really important that they have the systems and processes in place. And I mean, the CRM, the onboarding, um, understanding sales management, what's it actually going to look like to manage a sales rep and to bring that person in, onboard them and train them correctly. And then, when I say management, a lot of people think, oh, I hire one sales rep. There's not much management involved. There's not, but you still need to know what you're expecting of them. You need to know what reporting is going to be in place, how you're going to keep a pulse on things, how you're going to have consistent communication, what expectations you're setting, all of that. And that's where I highly recommend that people work with someone like you.
I was just gonna say that's
Yeah.
usually when I'm called in is they're like, I have this salesperson or sales team
Right.
and I don't really know what they're doing and we're not really growing or we're growing, but I don't know why and it's not predictable at all, whatever. And it comes down to you don't have the stuff in place. So that's when I
Yeah.
come in and kind of help you get all the
Right.
stuff in place.
Well, even when they have the stuff in place, usually after 6 months of working with them, I find out they don't have all the stuff in place.
Yeah. Or
Or
they
there's
didn't go
tweaks
back and
that can be,
revisit.
right.
Hmm.
There's tweaks that need to be made because obviously things are constantly evolving and there's always different levels. So, yeah. But what was the
And
second
advice
question?
to a sales rock star out there who is either looking for a gig or they're in a gig or whatever. What would you suggest for them to keep doing or stop doing or whatever as they're building this career?
Yeah, actually, someone asked me, I'm going to kind of like answer based on a variation of your question because I just
Yeah.
got this and I thought it was really good yesterday. So I had a woman who she has a background as a coach and she sold for herself, but she just landed her first closing gig and is having a lot of success working for this other company. And she's like, hey, I love this. What can I do? I know that this can be a volatile industry. Like, what can I do to set myself up for the best opportunities in the future? And so I told her, like, if you're able to keep your call recordings, and some companies have you sign an NDA, so you're not able to do that in all situations. But if you are able to keep call recordings, like keep some call recordings so that you can have that as proof for interviews and things later on. Keep your own meticulous records, like screenshot your commission payouts, screenshot your spreadsheets that show your data. I mean, granted, now with the AI world, who knows? Anything can be manipulated.
Probably, yeah.
But but Like you should know your numbers in and out. Like you shouldn't be relying on someone else to track your numbers. And you really want to like that is something I cannot even say that I did well, right? Like if you asked me my lifetime close rate, like I would have to sit down and like really list out all the different, opportunities I've worked on because it is like especially in a closer type coaching consulting world, it is very like opportunity based. So you might jump around a little bit or, work live events here and there. So if I looked at like my total lifetime commission sales closed or revenue sales closed, I don't know what it would be off the top of my head. Like that works for me because I'm a business owner now. I don't need to know that. But a closer should know that. You need to know your numbers. You need to know what have you produced, cash collected, what offers have you sold and what price points were they, like have really specific case studies of like when I was with this company, I started here, I ended here, I produced this much revenue, this was my closing percentage, this was my the offer price point. And so often reps will just come in and they'll say like, yeah, I closed at 20% and I've made $1 million in revenue. And, I've sold offers from 5 to 20,000. That's cool. If I believe you, like that's good. You obviously can produce some results, but that's not giving me a really compelling picture of, oh, I worked at this place for 6 months and at the end of it, I'd collected $500,000 in cash at a 27% close rate selling a $5,000 product. Like,
Right.
okay, now I'm impressed. Now have given me something concrete that I can really like see the results that you can produce. And then beyond that, of course, like just don't burn bridges, right? Like keep your relationships. Relationships are everything. That is what
Absolutely.
sets us apart as a recruiting agency is relationships. That's how we have our network. We don't just post on LinkedIn or like job boards. We know people from having relationships like this one of how we're on the
I was gonna
podcast, right? Like,
say, for those that follow, like
yeah,
you won't find that that Kelsey and I have worked together since 2020, but we're in each other's networks, and
yeah,
you're, someone somewhere said it first. I don't know, but your network is your net worth, and
yeah,
building those relationships when you don't need anything,
hmm,
you never know what's going to come out of them when you do,
yeah,
and
totally.
that's amazing.
Yeah, it is. And, we haven't even like kept in touch that well, but I still, and we only worked
Yeah.
together for a few months,
A few months, right? And
but
then we
I
both
know
went
that
off to
you're,
do
yeah.
different things completely, and here we are, like back in the same, sphere, being, women in sales
Hmm.
and kind of killing it. So I appreciate you so much, and thank you for saying yes to come on and
Yes.
catching up and kind of sharing your insight from a completely different perspective than being in the seat of the sales, although you're always selling
Yes.
something. Everyone's always selling something, but I just appreciate you so much and the blessing that you've been. And I encourage both business owners and founders as well as sales teams, go check out Kelsey and her company. And just as a beautiful vision of someone who, I mean, unintentionally is built this business, and I mean unintentionally meaning she didn't go out
It was
looking to
not in my
do
plans.
this. It was not the plan, and yet it is so intentionally placed in her lap, as she puts people exactly where they're going to make the most difference. So I just appreciate you, Kelsey, so much for being here, and I know that everyone is hopefully fired up by something that you shared because you really spoke to people's hearts. Any last words of encouragement?
Oh gosh, just, I think when we wake up every day and focus on serving people, then that's the best thing that we can do. That's what selling really is serving people. So
Wow. I
serving
could
through selling.
I couldn't say it better. Chase the
Thanks for having
impact.
me.
Absolutely. And let's go. Thanks for listening to Chasing Impact, Not Sales. If this episode sparked something, share it, subscribe, and remember, real sales come from real service. Keep chasing impact.